on this first section, they've asked us to find the area of each. It says use your calculator's value of pi and round to the nearest tenth. So if you look at your red calculators or any calculator out there on the internet, if there is a button for pi, if you could take a moment and press that button right now, you will, and then hit equals. So press that button, hit equals. The pi button is along that leftmost column on the red calculators. The calculator is going to be much more accurate than what you can do by just using 3.14, okay? So if you don't have access to a calculator that has that button on it, using 3.14 is okay. Okay, so if you want to put down at the top of your paper that pi is approximately 3.14. On the calculator, pi is going to say 3.141592654. Okay, it probably in its internal workings has more decimals even than that. So obviously that is more accurate. As soon as you take an irrational number like pi and you stop that decimal, it is not accurate anymore. It is that funky decimal that keeps going on and on. We don't have the ability to make it. There's supercomputers now that have taken out the decimals of pi, I think millions of decimal values. So we can only be so accurate. So if you have the calculator button, hitting that pi button is a good way to go because you're going to be more accurate. If you use 3.14, that's not a bad thing either. Okay. The formula that we want, if you could write it over here, the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay. So pi, we're going to use that calculator button when we can. If we don't have that calculator button, just use 3.14. And let's talk about how we do that formula. What is r? R is the radius of our circle. Now, in terms of circles, the radius is what makes a circle a circle. So the definition of a circle is all points that are an equidistant radius from a given point. So that's what makes a circle a circle. So a radius is kind of something that is defined to make a circle. So if you think this is our center of our circle, this here is our radius. It is that distance from the center to an edge of the circle. It is consistent throughout the entire circle. That's what makes a circle a circle. So I guess we're just going to do the evens here together. In this particular circle, we know that the radius has been listed as 14 kilometers. So how do we find that area? So let me kind of scroll in there so you can write it down with me. The area is pi times 14 squared. Now, if you did not have a calculator that has square buttons, our red calculators have a square button. If you look 2 buttons underneath the pi, there is a little x squared button, okay? But technically, that is that 3.14 value times 14 times 14. So technically, you can enter that in a calculator at home on your phone. You can go to Chrome. You can type in the top of Chrome 3.14 and hit an X for times 14 and then an X for times 14, and Chrome will do it for you. I mean, that's just a simple multiplication. But if we have the buttons that we want and we actually use the pi button and then the 14 squared button, that's going to be a nice way to do it on those red calculators. So all you're going to do is hit that pi button, you're going to hit times, you're going to put in your 14, you're going to hit squared, you're going to hit equals, okay? Now let's talk about what it says. Now I'm going to write down what the calculator says, and then we'll talk about how we actually should follow the instructions on the paper. So the calculator right now says 615.7521601. Okay, so that's what the calculator reads. The instructions say to round to the nearest tenth. So if they say to round to the nearest tenth, we're going to be looking at one decimal place after the decimal point. Why one place? I always think of a 10 has 1 0, so the tenths place one place over. okay? Hundreds has 2 zeros, hundreds would be two places. 100 has 2 zeros, so it would be 2 places. 1,000 has 3 zeros, it'll be 3 places. Silly way to remember, but it helps, okay? So all you got to remember when rounding is look to the number behind it. If it's 5 or more, we're going to round up. If it is anything below 5, keep it the way it is. So we see a 5 there, so that means that we have to then round it to 615.8. Now, we have been discussing area for a while. This particular one said that that length was a kilometer. How do we write the units correctly for the area of that circle? Kilometers squared, or square kilometers, however you want to say it. Both are correct. I'm just going to put the km with the little squared on it. You can do that SQ km. That also works. Okay. But I expect to see units if units were given. If units aren't given, don't worry about it. Okay. Everybody good with the area formula, and you've written that formula down. Okay. Let's try number 4. Number 4, they have labeled the radius as 11. So let's put an equals r, so we know what we're plugging into. So our area formula is pi r squared. So the area is going to be that pi button, or 3.14, whichever you have access to at the time, times 11 squared. Now let's go ahead and put that into our calculator using the pi button, and then times 11 with the squared button, and check that you're getting exactly what I get. I'm going to write down what the calculator says, so then we can discuss again how to round it. So my calculator reads 380.1327111. Okay. So remember what we're going to do. This one, we're going to look behind it. Is it 5 or more right behind it? It is not. So that means just rewrite it as is, no changes. And then we need units. What are our units for this?
Centimeters squared.
They're centimeters squared. So let's put that on there. Everyone good with 4? Okay. Let's now jump to number 6. This time they have just given us a verbal information. But technically, if we were to draw, and I'm so glad they make circles for me. If we were to draw a circle, they have told us that this is that 34.1 inches. Okay? So they've given us exactly what number 4 gave us, but they just did it more in like a verbal kind of instruction. So it's your job to know that, hey, that's what the number I'm going to use in the formula. So again, our formula, pi r squared, we're going to replace the r with 34.1, and we're going to square it. And so practice again, put it into your calculator, pi times 34.1 squared. Again, I'll show you what the calculator reads. We're going to look at that tens place. Do we need to round this one? Do we need to round this one? Yeah, right? That's after the 0. There's a 7. We got to round it up to 1. So that's going to be 3,653.1. And our units were inches, so that would be square inches. Okay? Now, we've done a lot of those. I want you to try 8 right now. Try 8. And then I'll show you the answer so that you have it. But everybody try 8 on your own. Let's make sure we understand how to do number 8. Okay, so most of you had tried 8. Let's just go over that real quick. your area would be pi times 29.9 squared. And if you do that, you should have got 2,808.6, in this case, square kilometers. Okay. Now, for the next section, we need a different formula, okay? We need a different formula. So now as a new formula, could you please write down for me? It says the word circumference. Now, circumference is just a fancy way to say perimeter. Circumference is just the word that is used for the perimeter of a circle. But it's the same thing, so don't overthink it. It's just a formula that we need. If you were to take a string and you would wrap it around like we wrapped it around the tree, if we were to do that, that's what we're talking about, the distance around the edge of the circle. So it's a string, it's a length. We don't need that square units anymore. We just need regular old units. So the formula, please write down, that you have for reference is that the circumference is 2 pi r. Now, mathematically speaking, when the 2 and the pi and the r are sitting next to each other like that, that technically means to multiply all three of those things together. So we're going to do 2 times the pi button times the r value. They have given us in number 10, the radius is 8.3. They have given us in number 10, the radius is 8.3. So let's go ahead, 8.3 yards to be specific. Let's stick those into our calculator. So it's going to be 2 times the pi. Again, 3.14 is acceptable. The pi button's a little better. Times 8.3. I'm going to show you how to, or what my calculator reads. The circumference is 52.15043805. And it does still say the same instructions, so follow whatever instructions on the page. If they don't give you instructions, 1 or 2 decimal places is fine by me. We've got this 1 in this spot right here. Right behind it is 5 or more, so it's going to go up. So it's 52.2. Now go back to the original measurement. The original measurement was yards. This is like a string that I have measured, 52.2 yards. So it's the perimeter. So perimeter doesn't need that square unit. Okay? Any questions so far about any of the stuff we've done so far? Okay, now flip your paper over, please. And I want to talk about 18 and 20. Okay, let's go to 18 and 20. 18 and 20 says, find the radius of the circle, use the calculator's pi button, and round our area to the nearest tenth. So now we're going to be going backwards. Okay, so now we need to use some algebra skills. So let's write down, let's do 18 and 20 together. We're going to use that circumference equals 2 pi r. Okay. And let me show you how to do it algebraically. It's not bad once you get the idea of what we were doing. What did I tell you in the circumference formula? Because the 2 and the pi and the r were next to each other algebraically, what were the 2, the pi, and the r doing to each other? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. What were they doing to each other? They were multiplying by each other. So what we're going to do when we have to reverse that process is we're going to reverse the math. We're going to end up dividing. That's all we got to do. So watch, let me show you. They told us that the circumference, so that's our C, is 69.1 yards. So where the C is sitting, we're going to put in 69.1. So let's put that into the formula. So we get 69.1 yards equals 2 times pi times r. Now, we just discussed that if we are multiplying, we're multiplying the 2 and the pi times the r is how we got the circumference. So mathematically speaking, if we need to reverse it, all we have to do is divide off the 2, divide off the pi, and we will get the radius. Because the rules of equations say for us to solve for a particular variable, whatever it is, if you're multiplying, we are allowed to divide as long as we divide on both sides. So what we get is the following, that the radius will just be 69.1 divided by the 2 and divided by the pi. Now, in your calculator, you have to hit 69.1 divided by 2 divided by the pi button, and then hit equals. So that's what you're going to put into your calculator. So everybody do that so that you can follow along with me. 69.1 divided by 2 divided by pi, hit your equal button, and you should get what I got, which is 10.9976067. We're going to round that to the nearest tenth. This one's kind of a trick one. I think we had one like this on one of our papers. That 9 there has behind it something 5 or more. It jumps to 10. But how does it do that? Well, it puts the 10 kind of right here. So what happens, it becomes 11.0 yards. So it kind of becomes 11. Do you have to put the 0.0? Not really. For accuracy purposes, I would say putting it is a good thing, because if you put that there, then that kind of indicates that you were rounding to that location. So for accuracy purposes, I would put it. But am I going to mark it wrong? No, I don't. I'm not going to do that. But let's do another one. Any questions about 18 before I try 20 with you? Okay, let's do it again. So this time our circumference is 25.1 equals 2 pi r. So what do we have to divide by again? What do we divide? 2 pi. So we're going to divide by 2 pi. So all we have to put into our calculator is 25.1 divided by 2 divided by pi, and then we're going to hit equals. When we do that, we get another one that's weird. They're trying to, I think, make the radius a nice measurement, I would assume. And so that's 4, or 4.0. In this case, feet is our radius. Okay. Now, any questions there before we move on to the next one? Any questions there before we move on to the next one? Okay. Anybody notice a word that's new in 21 and 22? They said diameter, right? Okay, so we need some information. So highlight that little word or circle that little word. But I want you to put a little piece of information at the top. That the diameter is 2 times the radius. It's double the radius. The definition of a diameter says that it is the distance from one side of the circle through the center to the other side of the circle. So let me draw a little picture for you. Again, thank goodness they can make me a circle here. Okay. But if we have the center marked, remember that was a radius, that was a radius, but this whole thing is a diameter. So that 2 radiuses make a diameter. So mathematically speaking, usually they use the variable d for diameter and r for radius, so d equals 2r. That's a common way to write it as well. The diameter is 2 times the radius. Now let's talk about problem 22. Let's talk about problem 22. They have given us the area. They want us to find the diameter. The area formula is 2 pi r squared. Is there a diameter in there? No, there's the radius. We have a formula for the radius. But if we know the radius, all we got to do is double it, and we'll find the diameter. So they go together, okay? So all we're going to do, just like the circumference problem we just did, it's a backwards one. We are going to take 78.5, that's our A, equals 2 pi r squared. What did we do to get rid of the 2 pi in the circumference problem? We divide. we're going to do it again. Nothing wrong with that, right? So we're going to divide both sides by 2 and pi. Now here's where it differs. That's r squared. It doesn't give us the answer completely. Okay? So if we put into our calculator 78.5 divided by 2 divided by pi and hit equals. Huh?
That's when you get the answer, you have to multiply by 2, correct?
No, I'll show you what you're going to do here in a second. You're thinking in the right way, but you have to use a different technique. Okay, 78.5 divided by 2 divided by pi. Oh, I know where, wait, okay, yes, yes you do. Give me a second. Okay, so, no. Okay, so we get, when rounded to the nearest tenth, 12.5 is our radius squared. Okay, so let's put that here. Okay, so everybody, if you put into your calculator 78.5 divided by 2 divided by pi, you get 12.5. That is not our radius. That is the square of our radius. Now let's jump back to algebra class. All of you had an algebra class somewhere in your life. What is the opposite of squaring something? Square rooting something. So for the first time on your calculator, you have to hit the square root of 12.5 to get that value. So you're going to hit second, where we hit the square before, hit your second button, and then that square root symbol will pop in. Then put in 12.5, end your parenthesis, and hit equals. And we get that our radius is 3.5 when rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, so our radius is 3.5. Okay, are we done? Did they ask us to find the radius? Nope. So what do we have to do in order to find the diameter? Yes?
Multiply by 2.
There's where you multiply by 2. Thank you. You were 5 steps ahead of my brain. I'm sorry. So yeah, the diameter is just going to be 2 times that radius value, or 2 times 3.5. So our diameter is 7 feet. It's a length across your circle. So in this case, the answer would be 7 for our diameter. Okay, so let's go over it again. We use the area formula to find radius squared. Then we use the square root button to find what the radius was. But if we know the radius, we have to double it or multiply by 2 to find the diameter. We found the diameter was 7. That makes sense? Lots of steps for that problem, right? We've got to undo the area formula. We've got to find the square root. We've got to double it. So there are multiple steps in that problem. That's what algebra is so helpful to us. Let's do 24. 24 says the area is 16 pi inches squared. Now, let's talk about why that pi is sitting in the problem. Anybody have an idea why they would leave it 16 pi? Why would they do that? As soon as we throw pi into the calculator, we do not have the accuracy by just saying 16 pi. If you ever take math classes beyond Algebra 2, if you go take calculus, or if you take differential equations in college or anything like that, if you like study engineering or anything like that, sometimes they'll leave their answer with that pi showing because it's more accurate than sticking it into a calculator or using 3.14. So it just becomes a kind of placeholder. If you wanted it, the area is 16 times 3.14, sure. But this allows some accuracy. Let me show you what you're going to do. It's actually almost easier. Here's why. Okay, so they said area, so let's write the area formula down. Area is pi r squared. Can we just go back up to here for a minute? Area is not 2 pi r squared, Mrs. Hott. I'm so sorry. I just realized, what the heck am I talking about? Okay, erase. I'm so sorry. I just realized, wait. Area is pi r squared. I was combining 2 formulas all together. I am so very sorry. Let's go back to 22 for a minute. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, let's revisit problem 22. Area is pi r squared. So we're going to put the 78.5 here. The only thing we have to divide off is pi. I'm so sorry. If you put into your calculator 78.5 divided by pi, and use the pi button, I'm so sorry. When rounded to the nearest tenth, we get 25.0 or 25. Oh, it's a perfect square. That's lovely. When we go to take the square root, it's a nice number. Anybody know what the square root of 25 is? 5. Thank you. So R is 5. I am so sorry. And then if the radius is 5 feet in this case, the diameter will just be 2 times that value. So the diameter is 2 times 5 or 10 feet. I am so sorry. I was like making my own formula up, combining the two together. I am so sorry. Okay. Let's do 24 together. Okay. So if we do it again, using the correct formula, the area is pi r squared. Let's take out the a. We know it's 16 pi. So then I can show you what to do. If there's a pi on both sides, what's great is you can just chop off the pi. So we can technically cancel this one, cancel this one, cancel them, yay, cancel them, they're great. So we actually get something that looks a little nicer. We get 16 equals r squared. What did we say is the opposite of a square? Square root. What is the square root of 16? It's a nice one, like 25. What is the square root of 16? Chase, tell us, what's the square root of 16? You got it. In this case, it would be 4 inches. So what's great about them showing the pi in the problem is they've technically kind of just left it there. And when we get to reverse it, we can just chop it off and cancel it out. Okay. Same thing happens for 22. Now, I'll try not to make up my own formula again. Sorry about that. The circumference formula is 2 pi r. I didn't combine them. That's good. And then let's plop the 22 pi right in there. So it's 22 pi equals 2 pi r. Do you see how there's a pi on both sides? If there's a pi on both sides, chop it off. Cancel it out. Mathematically, we can go bunk, bunk, cancel it out. Okay? And then we get that 22 equals 2r. If 22 equals 2r, how do we get rid of that 2 to find out what 1r is? Divide by 2. So we're going to divide by 2. If you're multiplying algebraically to reverse that process, we have to divide. And so we get that the radius is 11. In this case, it would be inches. They asked us to find the area of the circle. Here's what I always do. I always think to myself, did I really answer the question that they asked? So even when I finish a problem and go, well, the radius is 11, go back and ask, did they ask us what the radius was? No, they did not. Chase, what did they ask us for? The area. Can you tell us that formula? Share with the class. What's the area of a circle? What's that formula? Pi r squared. So now we know that radius is 11. All we got to do is put our 11 in. So our area is pi times 11 squared. We're going to put into our calculator 11 times the pi button. The pi button times 11 squared. And we get that the area is 380.1 when rounded to the nearest tenth. We'll just keep that cycle going up. And it would be square inches. So now ask yourself, did I answer the question that they gave me? Sure did. And so once I've answered the question that they gave me, I'm good to go. You know what I mean? Okay.